Hey guys, Ryan here from Diplomat Dad. Today we're going to be making a Dakota Fire Pit. I got a little spot picked out for us right here. I got our wood all picked out already. Good little plot of land here. The reason you might want to use a Dakota Fire Pit could be various reasons, but just to name a few really quick. One, it's very efficient because it uses the concept of the rocket stove, where it draws air into the fire from the bottom from another port for the air to flow through. As that heat rises in the fire, it draws air in, and it feeds it, and therefore it burns hotter more efficiently. So you get a hot fire, you get a efficient as far as wood consumption. You only have to use a little bit of wood, and you can do quite a bit of cooking. You can boil water very fast using this method. It's easy to cover up. You have a very small footprint that you leave. Once it's all done, you just take all the dirt that you dug out of the ground to make your pit, and you just cover it right back up. And realistically, if done properly, it can look like nobody was ever even there. Another reason you might want to use the Dakota Fire Pit is you have the ability to remain unseen for the most part. Because it is so efficient and it burns very hot, it doesn't create a lot of smoke. And also because the fire is down inside the ground, from a distance you can't actually see the flames. So at night it's pretty hard to see. You might see a faint glow in the ground if you're looking and there's nothing to obstruct your view from a distance, but for the most part you can remain invisible and still have a fire. So it's pretty cool. But let's go ahead and get into it. Let me show you what we got here. We got our wood picked out there. Did that already. I got a hole picked here. We're gonna dig 2 holes. This one here is gonna be about, let's show you here. So there's my hand on the hole. You're gonna make it just a little bigger than the size of your hand unless you have huge hands. You're gonna come away about another hand length, and you're gonna dig another hole that's about the size of a fist. Now when you dig this hole, the smaller hole, you want to see which way the wind's coming from. So let's see. Let's say the wind's coming from that direction right there. That's the way that I want my my pit facing. So I want to have the wind coming from this direction. I want to have my first small hole and then my big hole. So just how I have this. So I've got the big one there, then the small one, wind coming from that direction. So that way when the wind comes across here, it hits this hole where there's already a vacuum that's being created from this fire here. So that wind comes across, gets drawn in, gets brought through that tunnel under the ground right there, and then gets sucked right up to the fire, and magic. So let's go ahead and get to digging, and then we'll see what we got. We're gonna dig about, you wanna dig at least 12 inches. I like to go somewhere between 12 and 18. But you don't really want to go too much deeper than that. It's not necessarily, but you do got to go at least that deep, because this part here, in order to really get that drawing effect of the heat coming up and drawing air in through the other hole, you really need that cylinder to come up a decent length, or else it just kind of is just ineffective really. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let's start digging. All right, so there you can see we got about 15, 16 inches down. I just took all the dirt, piled it around the outside right there. See, there's the palm of my hand. That's how that sits right there. Now I'm gonna dig another one about right here, about fist size, down just about the same depth. All right. Now once you get down to just about depth, so I have this one about, let's say 15 inches, at this one at right about 10 inches or so, I went straight down about 10 inches. Now I'm kind of coming over down at a slant a little bit, and I'm just going to dig from both sides with my fingers until these guys meet. You can always grab a stick. I could use my shovel probably in this bigger hole now, but if the ground permits, like it does here, you can use your hands. It just takes a little bit longer. I'm almost there. All right, I'm through. Okay. All right, let's take a look at what we got here. All right, so there's the first hole we dug. There's our second hole there. You kind of see how they compare to each other in size. Let's go ahead and try to get an inside peek here. So there's the tunnel that comes through there. Not sure if you can see that very well. There it is. So that's that. We're going to start our fire right down in here. Air's going to get drawn in through here, and you can build it. So let's go ahead and check it out. Alright, so when we build this fire, I'm going to show you how you're going to build it if you want it to start small and then work your way up, which is going to allow you to use minimal amount of wood, and it's also going to create the least amount of smoke. So you've got your different piles of wood here. You're just going to start, you can do this really numerous ways, however you like to start your fires. But I'm just going to start with putting a little bit of that down there. I'm going to take some of these smaller pieces. Just going to kind of stack them up. Mix this up a little bit. And if you've seen my other video, you guys have seen this stuff that I use here. It's cotton balls and Vaseline. I'm just going to go ahead and grab some of that, spark it up with this here, get it lit, drop it down in there, then we'll have ourselves a fire going. So let's go ahead and do that. Burns like a champ. If you were to put your hand here, you can actually feel that air being drawn in. It's really cool. Let's give that a second and that'll flare right back up. And there you have it, folks. Dakota Fire Pit. So here you'll see it's smoking quite a bit. I took the rest of that wood that I had piled up right here and I just threw it on top. Pretty much smothered it but it's still drawing in air. It's going to smoke quite a bit right now because the ratio is not right. But once you get enough air in there and get some flames going, that'll start burning up. You'll see a lot less smoke, and then you'll be almost invisible. So this is a little contrast for you, so you can see what it looks like when it's not burning efficiently, when you just stuff a bunch of wood in there. We'll give it a few minutes, then we'll come back to it. All right, so it's been about 3, maybe 4 minutes since we threw that batch of wood on there. It just started flaming up again. You'll see it's still creating a little bit of smoke, but there's a lot of wood in there. You wouldn't normally start your fire like that. I mean, you certainly could. It's all, you know, a matter of application. It depends on what you're doing. So a lot of things. Let's take a look at it now. It's flaming pretty good. You'll notice there's really not even any smoke. Look at that. I mean, there's a tiny bit. So when it comes to cooking on your Dakota Fire Pit, you're obviously going to need a pan or something that's bigger than that hole if you're going to sit it right on top. But if you're going to sit something right on top, you need to kind of create some little channels in here to create airflow so that heat can escape. One thing you can also do is you can take some sticks much larger than this one and a green stick, and you just lay it across, lay a couple of them across, and you can put your pan on there if your pan's not going to fit on that circle very well. But that's how you're going to do that. There's a bunch of different ways you can get your pot or your pan or whatever to sit over that fire. If you have something that hangs, you can even put a tripod here, sit your tripod over the fire and just have it hanging. That's really the best way to do it, I think. So, but you've always got options. Just keep that in mind. A little food for thought. So one of the other really cool things about this fire here is that when you're done with it, it could virtually look like you were never even here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to cover this up. We're going to take that same dirt that we took out. We're just going to put it right back in the hole. We don't have any trees around right here, so we don't have to worry about the roots catching fire and you know, trailing off and starting a forest fire or something. But yeah, so let's go ahead and do that, get this covered up and show you how easy it is. I'm gonna go ahead and hand the camera off here. So this does a couple of things. One, minimal footprint. That's always nice. You know, you go out into nature and you do your thing. It's the only thing you should be taking is pictures and video. Yeah, so look at that, just like that, all covered up. It's completely out. The ground might be hot for a little while, but there's certainly not going to be any risk of fire right here. If you did this out in the woods and you were surrounded by trees and you had to dig through roots, a consideration you always have to keep in mind is the fact that those roots can become embers and they can just travel through the ground. So you've got to be very careful. I do my absolute best not to disturb the roots that are in the ground. If I can help it, I just kind of move around and finally I work where I get a spot that works for me. I don't like to tear up the ground any more than I need to, nor harm the trees or the landscape at all. And secondly, you know, if you're just trying to not leave a trace because you really don't want anybody to know you were there for whatever reason, this always works out. You know, you might want to be a little more careful as to how you disturb the land. If you were going to be building this for the sake of you don't want to be trackable, you would certainly, on the sand it's a little easier to cover up. You just got to be creative. But if you're working on grass or ground out in the woods, you might want to use your shovel and you basically just kind of come around at a 360 degree and you want to create a layer of earth and you want to remove it in one whole piece. You want to do the same thing for your second hole. That way when you're all done and you put all your dirt back in, you can put that piece right back on top, throw some more shrubbery on there, and you were never there. So that's that. So keep that in mind and always cover that back up. We certainly don't want any fires getting started. All right, guys. So there it is, Dakota Fire Pit. Hope you guys like it. If you did, give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to Diplomat Dad. And after you subscribe, don't forget to hit the bell notification button so you can stay up to date on my latest videos. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, guys, catch you out there.